It's a great day to be alive, and I'm excited to share with you today's VIP guest, Mr. Pat Ziemer. I don't know about you, but I love it when business is going good. I love it when I'm feeling good. And we have CEO of Magna here with us, and I met him years ago. We were both speaking at a conference, and what he does is so interesting. If you've ever heard of pulse electromagnetic field therapy, he has worked on Kentucky Derby winners. He works in the equine industry, and I'm super excited about what he's going to share, not only with that, but also what he can do for you as a business owner. I felt bad at times, and he has an entire human line as far as, well, I'm not going to take his thunder, but he can help you in a lot of different ways. He's a wealth of knowledge. I'm excited to have him here, and we're going to be talking about how you can feel better from the inside out. So I'm going to bring him up right after we thank our sponsor. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pat Ziemer. Pat, how are you feeling today?
Nice to hear you.
Let me ask you that again. The audio got cut off. Pat, it's great to have you here. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I'm glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation.
Well, I want to ask you, what made you start your company? I think it's an incredible company. I know it's ultra successful. You've told me some of the great things you've been able to do, but what was the start of it?
Well, the start was really a tragedy. I mean, prior to this opportunity or this business, I was in the jet aviation business selling Lear jets and charter services, and 9/11 basically put us out of business. And so I had to find something to do. I grew up around horses. I was familiar with horses. I was not frightened by horses. And so I had a friend in Canada who made some equipment, and he said, "Hey, I need some help at Churchill Downs. Would you like to help me out?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to do that." So I went out and helped him, and I did that for several years, found my particular equipment that we have today, repackaged it, took it to market, created the brand, and here we are 12 years later, 12, 15 years later. Long time. Time flies.
Well, you've been having fun the whole time. I think that's why.
We have been having fun. It's been a wonderful experience.
So what are some of what's a high point you would say in your business, and what's one of the low points? Because, 15 years, I'm sure it hasn't been a straight line the whole time, has it?
No, it hasn't. When we started, basically to finish the story, it was devastating when we lost our business after 9/11. We didn't fly for a number of days. Freight companies went out of business, and we were basically did maintenance on freight aircraft. As an example, UPS would launch 160 overflow aircraft a day that we would work on. After 9/11, they were launching 4. And my contract called for me to have the airport covered 24/7 with people basically available. So I had a lot of employees, and it just didn't work out after 9/11. And so we had to do something different. So that was a low point. But when we got started, as I explained, when I started working, went back with horses and started working around the racetracks and the horse shows and those venues, I was selling equipment and not providing services at that point, just selling various pieces of equipment. And I did all right, but I did not do as well as I was doing prior when I was in the aviation business. But when we found our machine, which is the Magna Wave high voltage, low frequency pulse electromagnetic field equipment. And if you saw the sizzle reel, you saw that it actually makes the muscles move. It actually massages the body when it's being applied. When I found that, I was able to then begin doing treatments, and that allowed us to recover financially very rapidly because it works. I would work on a horse, a rider would get on it, and they'd come back and say, my God, after 20 minutes, this horse is better. He changed, he paid attention to me, he turned when I wanted him to, he jumped higher, all that. Or the racing horses would say they had breathing was better, the whole situation. And so that really helped us out. The low point was when we got successful, if you will, and I started having practitioners around the country who were delivering this therapy for me. They didn't want to compete with me. So there was a point that we built our business up, but then I had to stop doing treatments. I had to let my practitioners do treatments. So we basically lost our income at that point. We were selling some equipment, but not as much as we wanted to or needed to, but I had to stop doing treatments. So we got up here, we went down here, and then we needed to climb back up. So that was a low point during that whole process. And it was a struggle. It was a big decision for us to make, to say, okay, we're going to quit actively providing these services and support people who are providing the services. And I started out with one practitioner. Now we have upwards of 4,000 practitioners around the country. So it changed, but that was a low point. Getting it going was having to make that, and every business goes through that. You make money, you're successful, and things are going, and all of a sudden, what do you got to do? You got to invest more, you got to hire people, or you got to do things differently, and all those become mountains that you have to go over to be successful. And so making that decision, we had to make that decision, or I could have not made this decision. I could have gone on during doing treatments and doing okay, but I'm not as young as I was 20 years ago when we started all of this. And so it just wasn't something that I was going to be able to continue to do for a long period of time.
Well, no matter what age anyone is, I wasn't the age I was 20 years. I wasn't as young as I was 20 years ago either,
That's right.
but we
That's
still
right.
got the ambition, we still got the drive, and that's what's important because I believe you have a servant's heart and you want to still help people. I don't
Absolutely.
know if you want to get to 4,500 practitioners or 5,000, but I know you absolutely love what you do.
Absolutely. We've been very grateful that things have gone the way they have.
Let me ask you about the that period again, because I know there's people that want to take that, and I wouldn't even say it was a low period. I would say it was an opportunity and transitional growing pains. If would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's growing pains, it's anticipation, and it's just commitment. You make the commitment to continue to go forward. Your bedside manner is important. When we went through that, we had to support our practitioners, and we had to when I say support, build them up, help them be educated, educate their customers. I would go to the horse shows or to the racetracks where I would have a practitioner and help sell their services to the trainers, to the users, and where I didn't make anything off of that. I made some money selling them the machines, but there again, you have to build volume in order to make all that really pay off. But yes, it's a commitment type situation.
Let me ask you, how long was it? Was this a couple of weeks or was it months, years?
I would have to say it was months recovery, not or months to build back up after we stopped doing day-to-day treatments. But it was 2 or 3 months of tough time. 2 or 3 months of tough time to continue to be able to survive on selling equipment and not doing any treatments at all.
So let me ask you this. 2 to 3 months, what did it do? You don't need to give specific numbers, but whatever you were at prior, how much of an increase or percentage or whatever, now that it's the new model, what did that net you afterwards?
Well, I can say that when we started, from a business person's aspect, when I was doing treatments, we were working 5 days a week, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, treating 10 to 15 horses a day, plus treating the riders. I got my horses by treating the riders. So I'd help the riders feel better, then they'd let me treat their horses. And so it kind of was hand in hand type of situation. When I stopped that and we went to the machine sales model, my factory was maybe selling everywhere 25 machines a year. And when we got into that, we sold an additional 25 machines a year for them immediately. So it took a little time to kind of catch up, but that was a fair number. But we really didn't get anywhere to where we got built up to where we were doing 50 devices a year. And so, and there's whole aspects of this that I could share, depending on your questions, how that moved and changed over those periods of time. I can tell you today, we're talking about 100 or more a month. And so it continues to grow. We're 24% ahead of last year this year. So, as long as we keep doing our things correctly, it's a good thing. It's no longer Dee Dee and I doing this. We now have about 30 folks that work with us every day, and we love every one of them, and we're glad to have them with us. And it's fun, and it's not only exciting for me to help people and help their animals, but to have people that work with us and as associates and compatriots is wonderful. And my goal is to make all of them as happy and as financially rewarded as we can.
I'm really happy to hear that. It's exciting for me too, because I remember it's hard to believe it's been 7 years, but when you were talking about some of this, and it's been exciting to watch you grow over the years, and that's really what I was looking for was, people give up when it's a tough time, but at the other side of the funnel, the tunnel, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
it sounds like exponential growth. You're saying 25 a year, now 100 a month.
Yes.
I don't know what the ratio is, but I'm going to make sure it gets added into the show notes here, because it's, let's just say, a lot more. So
Yes.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's talk about who you help and how you're helping them. You've talked about the riders, you've talked about the horses, and I know there's some other stuff you haven't talked about yet, but has been helping. So who would you say you really help, and how are you helping them?
Well, we, as you know, and as we've said, we started out in the equine space because I was comfortable there. I knew what was going on. I had been working back in that space for 4 or 5 years after 9/11, and so it was just a natural place for us to go. But as I said, the riders brought us the horses and so forth. I would say probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when we met, we were beginning to move into the human space to work with people, doctors, chiropractors, that whole type of thing. Where we've kind of migrated is into certainly chiropractic offices. We're working with orthopedic surgeons, pain clinics, chiropractors, as I mentioned, but where we're really kind of focusing today is on individual doctors and professional athletes. We've grown to where we're working with several different professional clubs: the Cincinnati Reds, the Oakland Athletics, Tennessee Titans, Philadelphia Eagles, Denver Broncos, Pittsburgh Steelers, a lot of different teams that we're working with to help their athletes recover faster and have better movement and energy when they hit the playing field or they go to the game. Working with Louisville City FC, the soccer club, they're 3 times national champions in their league, and so it's just been fun to do that. And that's a place where people can kind of relate to what we're doing. And we're now expanding where we have 2 clinics in Louisville to where people can come and have treatments here in the facility, and that's growing. We're not marketing that at all, and we're getting new walk-ins and new people coming every day to do that, and we hope to roll that out, the clinics. Now, a lot of our practitioners, as I said, we've grown from 10, 15, 20 practitioners up to almost 4,000 now around the country or around the world. We're international in terms of where we go: Australia, Canada, Germany, European Union, South America, Africa, Dubai, all these places where we're going. But it's just helping people, and that's the key. And the beautiful part about it, Mario, is it's instantaneous. You got a sore arm and we treat your arm 90% of the time, you feel better immediately. You'll see that pain go from a 10 to a 4. You rarely we don't have anybody that we treat them one time and they're finished. It takes a few treatments, but it's not something that they have to do forever, although some people do continue to do it because we go out and work in the yard and wrench our back. Imagine that. But that's how it plays out.
With all the growth and success you've had, what's one of the biggest expert authority insights you could give to say, if you're looking to grow exponentially, what's something you really learned that no one would notice on the outside if they're just looking at your company?
Well, it's interesting. When you and I met at Mike Koenig's event, and when we were talking, my practitioners were asking me, I was training them. I mean, I'd get on the phone with them every day, or I'd go out and I'd spend days with them in the field showing them how to do it and do that stuff. But they would say, you need to give me something that I can hang on to from the training aspect. So we decided to have a training program, a certification program, if you will, to train these people. And I worked on a training product for almost a year, and I was getting nowhere. I mean, because it required me to create everything from scratch, and it's like writing a book, which we both have done. You sit down, you write your first paragraph, or you get your title, then it takes you 2 months to write the first page. And then you get into your flow, and away it goes. And that's kind of where I was with our training program, how to put all that together. And of course, it was Ed Rush and Mike who looked at me and said, look, here's our training program. Go home and duplicate it. And I did just that. I went home, I opened up their training program, and I said, okay, instead of this paragraph, I'm going to put this paragraph. They're saying what I want to say in this paragraph, but I'm going to rewrite it so it sounds like Magna Wave. And I put it together and made it flow. It wasn't hard. I didn't try to create a Cadillac, if you will. I just wanted something to be completed. Then I did a weekly webinar with my practitioners and recorded that, which I then used for training for the other people. What happened when I implemented that, and you may have heard me say this from the stage a couple of times, when I implemented that training program, our sales improved by 30 to 40% within 30 days because people wanted that type of material. And that's what it did. And so my advice, there's always something in your head and as a business owner that you need to do or you think you want to do, and you think, oh, I don't have time to do that. You do have time. You can't get by without it. You need to step forward and do whatever it takes to do that. And another little sidebar to that is I went to Ed Rush and I hooked up, and I committed to have him be my business coach. You remember when he was doing that? I guess he still is doing that. And so I spent a day in California with him. We talked on the phone a bunch of times. I went and I sat down, and he asked me how my day went. He asked me what I did. He asked me what my goals were. He asked me where I was spending my time. And then he dissected that, and he said, here's 80% of what you're doing is eating up your time and not making you a dime. Quit doing that. And I said, okay. So I quit doing that, and that made a huge change in the services that I was able to provide and information I was able to give to practitioners, and I saw another huge jump in the business. The secret to that story is, so I come home and I tell Dee Dee, I said, hey, here's what Ed told me to do. And she says, what? Well, you got to get rid of this 80% of your time thief. And she said, I've been telling you that for 10 years. And I thought, oh, God, I just spent 10 grand to find out what you've been telling me for 10 years. But the deal is you got to hear it from somebody sometimes. Someone else has got to tell you what you need to do, and then you'll listen to them, where you won't listen to your trusted advisors that you're so close to so often. So listen to what people are telling you, apply those points, and make strides, and you'll be amazed at what it'll do.
That's exciting to hear. I didn't know those exact percentages. I knew it had helped. How would you say your books helped your business?
The book gave me, the first book, we're up to 4 now. The first book gave me instant credibility. It just the fact that I took time basically to write my story down. and to explain it and to explain what the therapy does and how it works and how we apply it to various aspects of training and recovery and health and that whole thing. And I probably need to explain to the folks what it does and from that standpoint. But it's amazing. And if anybody's wanting to figure a way of promoting your business, write a book. It doesn't have to be big. My first book was, I think, 39 pages. I think it's, what is it, Mario? 30 pages is considered a book? Something like that, or so many chapters.
24 or more to get it printed.
Okay, 24 or more. And I had, I think, 38, 39 pages. Dr. Dreesen and I collaborated on this book, and it just gave me instant credibility. People would read it, and to have a #1 Amazon bestseller was a cool thing. So it gave me credibility and authority, and you need that. And so we're working ways now to help our practitioners have those types of vehicles in their neighborhood, if you will, so they can promote themselves in their communities.
Let's talk about your practitioners. Tell me the biggest transformation you've seen from any of them.
Well, great question. In the beginning, the biggest transformation in my practitioners, in the beginning, they were all doing, I treat my horses, I go out and I do this and every day, and I can treat 8, 10 horses a day, or including the people, I would treat people along with it, or the practitioners would do that. But the biggest transformation came when all of a sudden they realized, gee, I can have somebody help me do this. And so I can get a second device, or I can expand my business in this fashion. And that really was the transformation. We got practitioners today, Mario, that have 10 and 15 employees doing a couple of $1 million a year in their own business. I'll get her name in a minute. You know, Nikki
Fedemeli?
Yes, Nikki Fedemeli called me one day, and she said, and we were working on a book together or I was helping her with a book that she was working on dealing with some health things. And she called and she said, tell me something, what's your impact? What's your business impact? And I said, well, you know, we're doing X amount, we're doing six figures and so on, and working to get to 7 figures and all this kind of stuff. She said, no, how many practitioners do you have? At the time, we had, I think, 275 practitioners. And so I probably need to do the math as I'm sitting here, but I sat down and I figured to practitioners what an average number of treatments that they might do in a year, what that could assimilate to. And all of a sudden, my little business doing almost $1 million a year really had an impact of almost $15 million a year on the overall economy with the practitioners. That was an eye-opener. When I realized what people were doing, making a living, making a nice living. We got practitioners who have our devices and they do enough to pay for their devices and help support their horse habit or their whatever they're doing. And then we have practitioners that go out and they build businesses where they're making $100,000, $200,000 a year or whatever, doing all kinds of volumes. And so that is where it really flipped the switch. When I could talk about that, and that's what we need to do as business people, is talk about our successes. Tell people what so-and-so is doing. You know, and it was an interesting thing. I had a person years ago who was a mentor of mine. He was a steamboat captain. He was a very successful construction person up in the Michigan, Chicago area, came back to my hometown of Evansville, bought a steamboat, paddle wheeler, and started doing excursions. And so he was at an event that I was at, and he was talking, and he was detailing his business and what was going on. And he said the most profound thing to me. He says, you start doing your business, providing your service, doing whatever you're doing, and all of a sudden you do nothing but make mistakes. You make accounting mistakes, you make budgeting mistakes, you make treatment mistakes, you make all these kind of things, but you're still growing. So in essence, you're making money, or you're growing your business in spite of what you're doing wrong, in spite of what you're not taking care of. You have to fight through that process. You have to continue going through that to where all of a sudden you'll be successful with what you're doing right. And then you can add to that. So, you know, we went through that. We were being successful in spite of what we weren't doing right. I don't mean that we weren't doing the treatments right. I just mean we weren't in the right cities. We weren't promoting this right. We weren't, you know, covering all of our bases the way we needed to. And those are the things that we were doing wrong. But once we continued to fight through that, it paid off.
I see that in a lot of businesses because they're quote unquote successful, but to what level? and they get
Correct.
comfortable where they're at. They don't want to have that pain of, we have growing pains, this and that, but it's always just a small shift until it's that next big breakthrough. Because if, you have that much success with not doing everything right, once you get those lined up, it's like the floodgates open. And, for everyone that's listening, think about the stats that Pat is talking about. 15 million impact with 275 practitioners. And earlier you said 4,000 now?
4,000 practitioners a day. So run that number. It's huge. It's huge. If my average practitioner is doing $50,000 a year, which they're, as I said, just picking a low number, and you extrapolate that out, that's a huge number. That's a huge impact on their life, on the economy that they're dealing in, and we're not a Chevy or a Ford, but it's really exciting to be able to make that type of impact on. I can tell you that out of those, I can't tell you the number today, but I can tell you that the number of people that start with our business that quit is probably only 5%, if that, of what we do.
You're right. You're not a Chevy or a Ford. You're a Cadillac, and I have no doubt you're going to be to 8,000, 10,000 with what you're doing.
Yeah, somebody's trying to get a hold of me, and I didn't shut off my phone. Sorry.
What were you saying?
My phone was ringing. I don't know if you could hear that.
No, I could, but right before that, you said, yeah. I said you're going to get to 8 to 10,000 with what you're doing.
We've got it. We sit down every month and take a look at what we're doing, what our goals are, and where we're heading. And for me, when Elaine sits down and with her advisors and comes back and this is our plan, this is where we want to go, the numbers are staggering. I mean, 8-9 figures. In just a few years from now, if everything continues to go as it's going, and we have our motivation is we're going to do it right. And if we continue to do it right and continue to have the right employees with us and the right teammates, it's going to happen.
I have no doubt you will. And I'm excited for you sincerely, because this is what the world needs more of. And you embody the whole reason I wanted to do the show and create Expert Authority World and get the success stories out there, because everyone just looks at businesses and, oh, they look like they're doing good. But when do you really have candid conversations like this where you can share this stuff outside? I mean, even speaking to an audience, I mean, they're just a different type of conversations, and some of the best ones, like I'll never forget when I saw you at the airport and you and Dee Dee were screaming out, and it was the first time meeting in person, and we just had a great event and everything.
Right.
And some of the best conversations, when you said Dubai, I was thinking of the stories you told me there, but some of the best conversations are just very casually, and they're not in a business setting. And
right.
I'm very thankful you're sharing this with Expert Authority World.
Oh, I'm glad to do it. It's fun. It's been a while since I've had a conversation like this, and so it's and I hope it's helpful. I hope people. I don't know if people can ask questions, but whatever. It's fun to do.
It absolutely is helpful, and you're bringing a lot of great nuggets here. So I want to ask you, where do you see the next 5-10 years going?
Well, plans that we're doing at this point is we're working on a franchise plan, much like a Massage Envy type of thing, to have. We haven't finalized the name, but to have PEMF clinics with offering a mechanical massage and the PEMF and vibrational therapy and a lot of things like that happening. So we're rolling out the first 2 now, and in Kentucky it's easier to do that. And so we're in the franchise lane. I see that really growing and being a neat, fun thing to do, giving people an opportunity to be partners with us, to be in business with us. So I see that really happening. We're developing, we're working with factories and our engineers to develop new equipment to be able to do a job better, to be able to cover more areas of indication. We're one of the only companies in our niche in the U.S. that are safety tested. We're applying for FDA approval. We are CE approved, pending one little piece of paper from the regulatory boards in Canada, in Europe, for human use with there. So that's really where we're going, is to be more mainstream.
That's a great segue because I wanted to touch on that. I know you started in equine, but I'm also excited about the human potential. Tell me more about what you can do for people. You were talking
Well,
about the sports teams and all other people just working in the yard. What's your recovery time and how can you really help people when they're hurting?
basically, and thank you for that segue, because the deal is what this therapy does, and again, in the scissor reel, maybe you play it again at some point so people who are just joining us can see it again, but it actually stimulates the muscle of the body and you'll see the muscle moving. What this signal does, it's a magnetic field. We create a magnetic field that penetrates the body and it goes into the cell and actually penetrates the cellular membrane, allowing the cells to basically take on more oxygen. If we can improve the oxygenation of our individual blood cells, we can help take away inflammation. If we take away inflammation, you relieve pain. Inflammation is the cause of all pain. Inflammation is the biggest thing that causes the body to be debilitated and to have problems. If you have a fever, you have inflammation in your brain or in your body causing you to have a fever. So we've got to work on that inflammation, improve the oxygenation. So that's what we do. We basically, it's not rocket science. I don't know who's calling me, but we basically improve the blood oxygenation so the body can be in a situation to better heal itself. Now, where does that take us with you or anybody who's got low back pain? Case in point, Dee Dee. We got into this business because Dee Dee fell. She was a teacher. She fell on the ice, hurt her back, had 3 herniated discs, and she couldn't raise her arm above here, and she was in constant pain. Now, I used lasers. I used some equipment that I was dealing with in the beginning that was lower power that you didn't feel, and I couldn't get any real relief for her. I could get a little bit of relief, but no reversal. We were at a trade show, tried this equipment, it's a longer story, but tried this equipment. She put it on her arm for 8 minutes, stood up, total mobility, no pain. And that was incredible for her. The machine could have cost $100,000 at that point, and she was going to figure some way of getting one. And we did. She asked me on the way to the car after 2 days at this event, she said, well, how did you think? I need to preface this. On the way to the event in Orlando, she kept telling me, we're fine. We don't need anything else. We're doing great with what we're doing. Let's just go over there and, do our due diligence, but don't do anything. On the way to the car after 2 days at the event, she looks at me and she says, what'd you think about this? How did you like it? And I said, you know what? I think it was pretty cool. She said, good, I bought one. And I was in business. I mean, I had to pay for this thing. It was $20,000, and so we had to figure out how to make her feel better and other people feel better. But that's what it does. It gives you an instantaneous relief. So if someone's got low back problems or someone's got shoulder issues, it can give relief. It's not a healing deal. It just sets the body up to better heal itself. And so the ramifications or the expanse of where we can go is incredible. We just haven't even touched the surface of that. The background of that is about 150 years ago or something like that, the American Medical Association basically took chiropractic, acupuncture, massage, electromagnetic modalities and so forth out of the traditional line of medicine. And so in the United States, all of these ancillary modalities, if you will, are not or have not been considered mainstream, or they've had to work themselves up to be mainstream. You go to Europe or Canada or other places in the world, these therapies are mainline. They are used every day. People understand them, and they're able to accept that and go forward. So that's been our big challenge, is to bring it more mainline. And believe me, we feel that we're kind of getting there with the number of practitioners that we have today and how we've been able to grow our business. But going mainline, when you start doing something in your hometown in Michigan, no matter what it is, cleaning carpets, you have to get yourself to where you're the mainline provider of that type of service, whatever it may be. Detailing cars doesn't make any difference. But that comes from a good bedside manner, believing in what you're doing, and continually doing it. If you do those things, you can be successful.
I love that. Those are great expert authority insights. I'll make sure those are on the show notes. And I only have one other question before we thank our sponsor and come back for the Imperfect Action Round. I call this the entrepreneurial roller coaster because we all have been on it. And I have questions that are very let's say controversial, and I have other stuff about celebrities and stuff like that. So,
Oh boy,
how you feeling?
I'm good.
You on a 1 to 10, what kind of question you want?
Oh, I don't care. Let me have it.
Did we go
Give
to
it
the
to me.
Did we go to the moon?
Did we go to the moon? Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty happy with the way things have, the trajectory, if you will.
I like that. Very good. I'm actually excited to get a wheel for this part so I can spin it. But that's that is the answer. We will come back with the imperfect action round right after we thank our sponsor. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the imperfect action round. Pat, are you ready to take imperfect action?
I guess I am. We'll see what happens.
So, these are rapid fire 60-second answers. First question: what is the fastest path to the cash?
Fastest path to the cash. Find something that you can do well and that you enjoy doing it. And if you have the desire to do it, you're going to find the cash immediately.
Number
My dad
two.
used to say, watch the pennies and the dollars take care of themselves.
I like that. Number two. What is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way they can fix it?
The biggest problem I see that prospects make is they do a lot of research and a lot of due diligence, and then they almost overload themselves. They ask many questions. They compare every piece of equipment in the marketplace, and they become confused as to what it can do and how it can help. Which wax should I use on my car? Well, you can always refine that, but use one. And that's where they get so confused that it's hard to get them beyond that. But we try. That's part of our whole cycle, our whole funneling thing is to get them out of that before we get into other discussions.
Excellent. Number three, what is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
Maximize customer lifetime value would be to be truthful, transparent, do not knock your competition, and provide good facts that you can do. I can't tell you how many times people have struggled because they spend their time knocking their competition. And there's no, because they're all doing the same thing. And so you got to capitalize on what they're doing right and that you do it. And what I always say, what sets us apart is I want people to see that we're family and they want to deal with us and be comfortable dealing with us. If we do that, we're going to be fine. I don't care how many competitors I have. If we are good and we are comfortable to do business with, people will want to do business with us.
I like that. I like that family part a lot and agree. What is one of the best books you could recommend?
Wow. Best books. PEMF by Pat Ziemer and Jerry Dreesen. No, I'm kidding. Let's see.
I'll give you top three. I'll give you top three because I'll make sure
Okay.
that's in there.
Well, okay. I really have become, in recent history, a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. I started following Gary when he first started with his wine shows and that type of thing. But his book, Crushing It, another one that I've always enjoyed by Paul Zane Pilsner. What's the title of that book? It's not the big that eat the small. It's the fast that eat the slow, and that is the deal. That book, probably right there, is the number one book. Gary Vaynerchuk, and then I'm going to go back to Faith Popcorn in her books about her vision of where society was going to go with cocooning and people working together and how they're doing that. I really enjoyed her book as well. And of course, there's all a million other ones.
Tell me her name again.
Faith Popcorn.
Okay.
She's written several books, and I can't remember the name of the one that I first read by her, but it was excellent.
Well, I appreciate the recommendations. Those are good, and I'm familiar with two of the three authors.
Paul Zane Pilsner. It's not the fast that eat the slow. It's not the big that eat the small. It's the fast that eat the slow. Is so applicable today in what people are doing and in this age of internet and everything like that.
He's a fantastic author.
Yep.
Where can people find more at?
Certainly, people can learn more by coming to our website, magnawavepemf.com. We're very happy that we are transparent. Everything is there. We don't hide our prices. We don't hide anything. It's all there. All the information is there, and we try to provide everything that someone would need to learn and enjoy more about PEMF.
Excellent. Well, Pat, I have truly enjoyed this myself, and you have no doubt added value to Expert Authority World, and I thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
All right, Expert Authority World, we got another great episode. I will see you on tomorrow's. Have a great day, and God bless.